This is TWiT.
Yesterday was a big day, not because of Apple, but because of Patch Tuesday. And yeah, this is actually a big one. So this has been a big year for Windows 11, monthly updates. This is one of the bigger ones. I think this might be the last, not that it matters, honestly, but the last monthly, whatever, Patch Tuesday update before we get 25H2, right?
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, because of the way Microsoft does things, these features are all, I have to use the same browser for my camera window and my regular browser, which is going to confuse me this entire show. I'll be okay. Because Microsoft is providing the same features to 24 and 25H2, well, actually 23H2 right now, the Patch Tuesday updates we got, even though they're different KBs, different cumulative updates, are, in fact, the same. And I'm just looking at the article I wrote, and I can see I screwed up the KB number, so those KBs are exactly the same.
Nice.
It seems like that would explain it, Paul. That's why they're the same. That's not why. That was just me making a mistake. So for those of you without a Copilot Plus PC, by my math, that's about 99 points.
Yeah, everybody, pretty much.
Everybody. Yeah. Some changes to search, some changes to notification center, some changes to system dialog, some changes to lock screen widgets, et cetera, et cetera. We can go through this if you want, but we've talked about most of this before, or all of this, I guess, really, as these features have kind of wound their way through the Insider program. So search from taskbar, this is when you actually still leave the search button or whatever that is there in the taskbar. When you search from there, just search, really. I don't know why they're calling it this. You'll get a new grid view for images, right? Like we had on the web in 1999. So that's fun. Some other small changes, nothing really big there. If you are coming to Windows 11 from Windows 10, you may know that when you brought up that, it's kind of the naming here is a little tough, but the notification center, which in Windows 11 is actually two different windows that appear together, one of which says notifications, the other one's kind of a date calendar deal. It doesn't have the clock, right? That used to be there in Windows 10. Now you'll be able to enable that. Still can't screw with your schedule in there like you could in Windows 10. Baby steps. It's only been 4.5 years. We'll get there. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but whatever. If you want to turn that on, settings app, and then probably time and language, date and time, and then you'll see an option in there for show time in the notification center, which again is, I guess, those two panes today. It's kind of a weird naming system. Dialogues that are generated by the system. I'm trying to think of an example of this, like you're going to word a file or something, we're always, well, no, they weren't. Some of them were modal, some weren't, but now they're all modal. And they also deal with a dim the background of the desktop, which is actually kind of a cool effect that you can put in individual apps as well. So it's pretty good. So someone called this out when I wrote about this. And if you look at the image that I have in my article for this story, I only have one of the file explorer updates in there, and it's the most subtle, and no one will have noticed this, but the cut, copy, rename, share, delete buttons that are at the top that used to be just hieroglyphics and now have the words have like a thin sliver divider between them. Super exciting
because that makes it better.
Yeah, no, it's way better. But what's coming, and this is the thing we talked about on the show that I don't think I've written about per se, but I've been kind of raising this issue. If you look at that image, the context menu is actually pretty humongous, right? Like in that picture, I'm right-clicking on an image file. So I have various system apps or inbox apps that come with Windows, like Photos and Paint, that can work on images, and so they appear in this thing as discrete commands at the bottom of the menu. And I've talked in the past about how there's this notion of app actions that are occurring in Windows 11. AI is going to tie into that, and
you can barely fit this on the screen.
Right. Well, I know it's about to get longer. So Richard last week described this as kind of a glorified open with, which it absolutely is, by the way.
Yeah.
But
you still have open with, though.
You still have open with. Well, in other words, all right. So you have
enough.
Right, so let's just step through this, right? So you have an image, and you right-click on it, which I have to say, 90% of people who use Windows probably never do that. But okay, let's say you're smart, you know this, you can do this. You can open it. Obviously, you can open with, and it's not there, but the open with menu will have some kind of a list of apps there. It's going to have Affinity Photo. It might have Photoshop. It will have Paint and Photos and whatever else you have on your system, whatever it is. But the idea behind app actions is that those apps all have specific actions they can perform. And instead of just opening it in the app and then finding the command, this is a way to get to that command directly from File Explorer or Windows, right? And that's one of those AI orchestration things, I guess, or whatever. So they're adding that to this menu now as well. So in addition to all this stuff you see here, there's also going to be like app actions, I think is the way that, let me see if that's exactly how they phrase it. Where is this thing? I don't know. It's in here somewhere. It's like there's so many things. Yeah, and I don't even write what it is. I believe it says actions or app actions, and then that will be another sub menu, right? And so there's going to be all these, this kind of growth of stuff that's going to be on these right-click menus. Now, the reason I point all this out, and I beat that one to death, I apologize, is that one of the points of Windows 11 was to simplify these menus, right? And to simplify the whole UI. And if you, and one of the right? So one of the big complaints about Windows 11 from power users was they would right click on things and stuff would just not be there. And they're like, what is this thing? Well, here we are 4.5 years later, and this is getting, that's what happens. This is what always happens. It's getting longer and longer and longer. And because of AI or Microsoft's desire to cram AI into everything, we've got off the kind of deep end on this. So this is just going to keep getting worse. And the more stuff you have installed in your system, that does.
Yeah, because I saw a few of the ones in your context menu were like image resizer, which is the power toy. Like
that's right. No, I installed that. I mean, that's on me in a way. But I mean, but all of these things can attach themselves.
Yeah,
it's what you're saying is it's like a lady's purse.
I'm actually
it never gets smaller.
Okay, I was going to say it's like cancer, but that's a friendlier way. Yeah, it's like it's metastasized.
So you have a choice between misogynistic or fatalistic. Your choice.
Yeah, I usually go with the fatalistic.
Yeah,
so
I know you will.
Sorry. If you go into the settings app and go into privacy and security, you will see a fairly new page called text and image generation. And there's a couple things going on here, or there will be someday soon, but one is you can turn this stuff off. So if you don't want to use that stuff, you turn it off. You could actually, you wouldn't do it to make the menu smaller, but just maybe you don't like this stuff. You can do that there. But the other thing this will start doing soon is that as you use third-party apps, which I think is notable, by the way, not Microsoft apps, right? But third-party apps that use generative AI, they'll start appearing in kind of a recent activity list. And you can go in and say, actually, I don't want that app to be able to use those features or whatever. So you can do a little bit there. The other interface for this is if you go into settings app again, but then apps, and then I believe it just says actions. Yeah. You will one day on this particular computer, there's absolutely nothing, but you will one day have a list of, this actually should have stuff because there are some Microsoft apps should be there. You should see Paint, Photos, and probably Notepad in here. And you can go in and customize which actions appear. So there's ways to kind of fix this, but no one's gonna know how to do that stuff. But anyway, that's happening.
They could go so far as to say, hey, any of these items you never used sits behind a thing called never used.
Yeah, or
I do that with my email. I have a unimportant folder.
Yeah, unimportant, right? So Microsoft's approach is a little different. They notice you're not using it, and then they just start promoting it to you.
Yes.
So it's bad enough that it's like on the system, and you're just like, look, I'm just trying to deal with this thing, and I'm not going to play with it. I just want to leave it alone. And it's like, no, we're going to berate you. So we have to deal with that aspect of this world.
We're going to make this menu item hover under your mouse no matter where.
Yeah, it's going to follow the mouse cursor.
Sooner or later, you're going to click this.
Yeah,
you have no choice.
So actually, I mean, it's funny because as we were talking, I opened the settings app and it actually I wish I had taken a picture of it. It displayed a UI I've never seen before, which is it has that new centered search bar. It actually dropped down a list of recommendations, even though the home page is literally recommendations. So yeah, Microsoft is just like,
it's so much fun.
Anyway, if you're wondering why I'm crazy, I keep saying this. if you haven't seen the new Windows Hello experience, the new tedious, slow-moving one that uses, new visuals and all that stuff, that's part of this. There are improvements to the widgets, both in Windows on the desktop and then on the lock screen. The lock screen bit is that you can go out and customize which widgets appear finally, which was the first thing we asked about when they added widgets. You can actually reorder them. You can resize them. They have a smaller size now, which is pretty cool. And then the widgets interface, I keep clicking on things to see if I have any of this on this computer, and I do not. But the widgets interface, the widget board, is being improved, so you can have multiple widget boards and also multiple feeds, which has been one of those things we've actually supposedly had for a while, but I've never seen a third-party feed. And navigation bar, so you can switch between all those things. And there's some other stuff, but that's most of it. And except for you who have Copilot plus PCs. So the other 99% walk away for a few minutes. This doesn't regard you. Just kidding. But so recall like Copilot, by the way. I don't know if there's anyone out there who opens Copilot on purpose, but I do it all the time by mistake. And there is they obviously have that alt space kind of mini quick view, whatever they call that. It's kind of like the light tan small window. But the main Copilot window now is this whole kind of experience, right, with graphics and stuff. And someone correctly, I think, has likened it to a sort of like AI start menu. And it shows you all this different stuff that it's not just like a prompt, right? It gives you kind of ideas about things you might want to do. They're doing this to Recall as well. And actually, this one I kind of like. So Recall now has a bunch of big thumbnails, like big tile type thumbnails with recent activity, the apps you've used the most, the websites you've used the most. You can filter the view. You can go in easily, pick the apps you don't want this thing to record, this navigation bar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the type of thing, I mean, I don't use Recall, but if you are using it, this is why you're there, right? You're trying to find something. So I think that's pretty good. Click to do is just getting an interactive tutorial when you run it the first time, and then you can go access it and more options if you already saw it and need to reference it again. And click to do is, I guess, in my opinion, is probably the best. Well, maybe the search thing, but that and or search is maybe the best kind of Copilot plus PC specific feature. And it's way to interact with anything you see on screen, whether it's text or graphics or whatever. There's the agent in settings that actually arrived a month ago for Snapdragon X based Copilot plus PCs. But now if you have a normal computer, you can get that as well. Although your primary language has to be set to English for now for that to work. So those 3 Copilot plus PC features as well.
Cool. And they too will get 25H2 soon. So.
Will is a strong word.
Okay.
It's so definitive, but I'm sure you're right, actually, because it's an enablement package, and it should happen. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I don't know.
There's really not a lot of conversation about Recall these days. I guess the 2 guys who've got the machines don't care.
So. Yeah. So 2 things to this. I'm not going to call out the person, and this is not an invitation for someone in chat to go find the person and put his name in there. But there's a guy who writes for a publication. It's been around for a while, both him and the publication. I actually like and respect the guy, but he's one of those kind of like never recallers, we'll call him. And he, back in March or May, one of the months, published an article about how, this thing's going out now. It's actually out in the world. No one should use this. It's the most unsafe thing in the world. And I read this at the time, and I started writing an article, which I've not published, because I hate to personalize this too much, but
sure,
it's just ignorant. And the reason it's ignorant is he explains all the Microsoft security controls and blah, 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 all this stuff. And then he says, yeah, but what if you're in some scenario where someone forces you to log into your computer and sign in with your face, and now they have access to everything you've ever looked at on your computer because all these screenshots are unlocked by this, which actually isn't true, by the way, but whatever. Stop. Because if you're in a world where someone has taken your computer, held it up to your face, and forced you to sign into with Windows Hello, Recall is a problem, I guess. But so is every password, every email, every whatever you've done. Enabling Recall is not saving you from anything. You still have a history of all of your activities in this computer.
Yeah.
And that's just silly. So it's silly in the sense to broadly suggest that no one should ever use this, because this is like the worst case scenario. This is the what if scenario. Like I'm kind of a optimize for the everyday kind of person. You don't optimize, like in other words, like we had friends who would fly to Europe with these 2 huge umbrellas, and I would be like, guys, we're only here for 5 days. If it rains,
hotel will have an umbrella.
they have umbrellas. The umbrella, Europe makes umbrellas, that kind of thing. Like you can kind of it's like people will say you can't be too careful. Actually, you can. Like the granny driving 40 miles an hour in the fast lane is being a little too careful, don't you think?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I just, yeah. So look, there's a excellent Microsoft security story that comes up later in the show. Maybe we can just move on to the next stupidity instead of this thing, because it's just like everyone who's concerned about recall is the exact audience of people who will never use recall.
Yeah. So and you don't have to. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's making you do it.
Nobody's making you.
Yep.
I think it's kind of important to note that this is the penultimate Windows update that Windows 10 users are going to get. They'll get one more next month.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, maybe.
Unless of course they.
I think they're going to keep. Well, I mean, there's extended security support, right? So I assume they're going to keep putting out the normal updates for Windows 10. I mean, they'll just be security updates, right? We're not going to see functional.
I thought
updates.
that was the point of end of life, is no more security updates.
It is, but see, everything with Microsoft has an asterisk. So end of life asterisk is there's extended security support still, right? So you can pay, but
you have to pay for it, or
you get it for free if you're a person, like a normal human being.
Yeah, if you have 5,000 Bing points.
Yeah, so I do think we're still going to get a KB every month for Windows 10 that will list the security.
I mean, the bottom line is they don't want Windows exploited, so they will keep pushing patches if there's a significant vulnerability.
Oh, okay. So never mind. Forget what I just said.
Can we talk a bit about the Windows Hello?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. The Windows Hello updates just like making passkeys more visible for Windows login.
So that part is better. The thing that they've added that's better, if you haven't seen it, is it's just a simple little thing in the authentication dialogue, I guess, that lets you choose between different ways you can authenticate, right? Mm-hmm. Which that's good. And that includes security keys if you have a physical key, passkey, if you have that on the device, whatever you have.
Because they've often buried these. Like you have to go to, I can't log in, try another way. And like several layers down is, you want to use a YubiKey, fine. And
if this isn't there quite yet, but they're also testing now and will soon ship a feature that allows third-party pass key managers to integrate with Windows 11, like they do on mobile, right? Mm-hmm. And there was basic support for this. I think that started in 24H2. I'm losing track when things happen, but it doesn't really do much right now. It's not very good, but now, whatever passkey, like password manager probably that you use, if they support this, is what will come up now, right? So you can authenticate against your passkey provider, or whatever the term is I'm looking for here.
Does Windows have anything like, on Linux you have something called PAM, which is password authentication modules. And the idea is it's a text file, and you can add, that's if you want to use a YubiKey or a fingerprint or hello or whatever, you can add to the configuration of Linux PAM to say, okay, and this will work. And you can even say this works for SSH, this works for login. Right. It's a very nice way of explicitly, now admittedly you have to edit a text file, but explicitly telling it how to authenticate various
honestly
things.
I mean, that's one of the big debates in the Windows world, because we moved to a registry over 30 years ago now,
right?
And is it not better, or is it better to just use plain text configuration files? Like we used to have these they're still in Windows, actually. We do have text-based configuration files, but they're not really used as much anymore. With a random temporary, I'm going to call it, exception, Windows has pretty much always been, GUI focused, right, for this kind of stuff. And so I don't believe there is, I guess to answer your question, no, I don't believe there is a text file you could go and edit to achieve what we're talking about here.
I feel like this should be a standard. I know it's a Linux feature, but it just seems like such a good way to do it.
Yeah. Yep. The Linux audience is obviously more technical on average than the Windows.
Yeah, and they're willing to edit a text file to do that.
Yeah, this is a bit much to ask. I think of most like my mother, sister, brother, whoever. I would, I don't even think they could write a text file. So I don't, I hear you, but I don't believe there was and Richard knows this pretty well too. There was a moment of time in the early 2000s where they kind of reversed course on this, and things like Server Core came out of this. Exchange, I want to say 2003, maybe that version, or if it wasn't I guess it would have been 2007, whatever the next version was. They actually built it. I think that one was built on PowerShell, and the subset of functionality in that case was actually in the GUI. Whereas the superset, all of the functions were in the
that was the big push, right? The same happened with IIS Administrator. It's PowerShell first, and then these MMC shells literally just wrote PowerShell.
It's just a front end. It's just calling the PowerShell back end, right? Which honestly, that's closer to what you see on Linux, and because PowerShell is so sophisticated, it's to me this is a great way to do things. But I don't know. Like I was just I was working on the. What's it called, Paul? Quick machine recovery feature that's in 24 and soon 25 H2. And I don't know that that's how it was built, but obviously there's a GUI front end that's for an individual's distant settings. And you just I want it to work this way, whatever. And the feature is mostly automated. It occurs when you need it. But you can actually, from the command line, view and change the configuration. And that's very interesting, like that it's going out the door. Part of it is because it's a feature for both businesses and individuals. And obviously for businesses, you want to be able to script it or remotely manage it, et cetera. So that makes sense. But I just thought about this because I was in writing about it. I was like, this is the way everything should be. It isn't always. It usually isn't, I would say, in Windows, probably Windows client anyway. But yeah, I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but the problem with this Windows Hello thing, because Windows Hello is great and whatever, but the new UI, which is admittedly pretty, you'll have a chance to see it because, man, it's slow too. And
you'll have time.
Yeah, you'll be able to really take, just enjoy it. It comes up, it does its little blinky thing. It looks around. It's like, oh, it is you. Yay, it's you. It's really you. Yeah. Okay, click here to make sure. And you're like, come on, man. just do it. Would you just do it? But no, just do it. Like that. A little tedious, but anyway. Yeah, so it's a big one, like I said. So heading into 25H2, it's been a lot of changes this year. And this is, I don't know if it's the biggest month, but it's right up there. It's one of the top 2 or 3.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this little highlight from a much better show, and longer too, called Windows Weekly. The whole link to the show is right below me. And of course, we stream live right here every Wednesday. You can watch us do our thing or download it here or in your favorite podcast player. Best thing to do? What do they say? Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.